Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. And tonight's Raw was from the Times Union Center in Albany, New York. And before I start the review, if you guys haven't checked out my movie review of Pokemon Detective Pikachu, saw it today, uploaded my review earlier today. If you guys haven't checked it out, definitely give it a watch. I liked the film. I thought it was awesome. I didn't love it as much as I was hoping to like it. But Detective Pikachu, I thought it was an awesome film. I liked it. So I said, check out my review if you haven't seen it. So here we go. Another Monday Night Raw. Another shitty show it was. This was a fucking shitty, terrible, garbage show tonight. Absolutely fucking garbage. We got introduced to a new WWE Championship, a new WWE title. Mick Foley ended up introducing it. So I'll get to that. So let's get on with the review, with the Raw review. So, Raw opened up tonight with Brock Lesnar, Mr. Money in the Bank, Brock Lesnar, and Paul Heyman. They both end up coming out. Heyman says he hears the paranoia pre-Maiden through the room, as it well should. He says, because just think of the conspiracy theories unfolding in front of our eyes. He says his client has heard the theory that they hatched this plan as soon as they saw Sami Zayn get Braun Strowman out of the Money in the Bank ladder match. He said that somehow, some way, somebody had a back route into the XL Center. That somehow they could sneak Brock Lesnar in. So Heyman was like, how do you sneak Lesnar into an arena? That's some way, somehow, Sami was lured, beaten up, hung upside down, and he goes, somebody with the right political connects made a quick negotiation for Brock to be the eighth guy in the Money in the Bank ladder match. And Paul Heyman was like, but these theories give them way too much credit. And why not blame Brock Lesnar for killing JFK? Yes, Paul Heyman made a JFK reference. So Paul Heyman goes, this is how it goes. If he's WWE or Universal Champion, he's a paranoid man right now. Because whenever they appear at a WWE event, they're vulnerable to the greatest assassin in WWE history. And he's like, and then, Seth Rollins ends up coming out, and he has to be paranoid that Brock Lesnar will strike at that time, and as his father, that Tricky Dicky dangerously taught him. So this is what Seth Rollins was saying. And he was like, good news. The whole world isn't against him. Just Brock Lesnar. So he goes, Paul would rather have the entire world than just one Brock. And now he has to defend the title anytime that Lesnar demands. But, yeah, so that was what Paul Heyman was saying. Seth Rollins didn't come out, though. I got my notes all mixed up, but Paul Heyman was saying all that. And so Seth Rollins ended up coming out. He says he should be ecstatic tonight after being in the fight for his life against AJ Styles and also winning. He says he's not in a good mood because he's got to come out here and see this. So Seth ends up saying he'll cut to the chase. He's trying to be the champion that Brock Lesnar never had the guts to beat. And he can't do that with that contract over his head. Seth Rollins goes on to say that he knows he can beat Lesnar. And he tells Lesnar, why not be a man and cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase tonight? Man versus man. So Paul Heyman says Seth has to play Brock's game before getting drowned out by the roar of the crowd at the standoff between the two men. So Heyman says, he gets it, but this is Lesnar's game. And he says it's a game of anticipation, which means Seth has to wait until Brock Lesnar feels like cashing in the briefcase. So he says it's kind of like waiting around 7 hours for your girlfriend to main event the show you've dreamed of, which Paul Heyman was making reference to Seth Rollins' girlfriend, who is Becky Lynch. Yes, they both are dating. It's kind of cool that they're dating. And so when Paul Heyman made that, Seth got all pissed off. He ends up getting in Brock Lesnar's face, and Paul Heyman ends up pulling Lesnar back and tries to question Seth's worthiness. And he suggests that perhaps Brock thinks Seth is beneath him and wants a new challenge. And he was saying a new day, if you will, meaning Brock Lesnar will probably want to face Kofi for the WWE Championship. And so Kofi Kingston ends up coming out. Kofi says he doesn't mean to steal Seth's thunder, but he's trying to establish his legacy as the WWE Champion. He says when it's said and done, he wants to be remembered as one of the best of all time. And he can't do that unless he beats the best night in and night out. He says if Brock's cashing in tonight, he needs him to cash in on him. He needs Brock to cash it in on him. So Paul Heyman says he just realized both world champions are auditioning for a main event match against the reigning defending champion of the box office. Of course, he was talking about Brock Lesnar, his client. And he says Brock Lesnar, Mr. Money in the Bank, didn't have to come to them, and that they both came to him. And he has inside word tonight that the two of them aren't done for the evening. He says since they'll most likely be out here later tonight, Brock Lesnar isn't going anywhere. And so Paul Heyman says, stay tuned. The beast is yet to come. And then both Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman end up leaving the ring. But it was just a long opening to Raw, this segment. So much going on here. But who knows who Brock Lesnar is going to cash in on. I have to say, it'll probably be Kofi. It'll probably be Kofi Kingston. And I just know that for a fact. WWE is going to have Brock Lesnar cash in the briefcase on Kofi. Brock Lesnar is going to beat Kofi, take the WWE Championship. And this is a way for Brock Lesnar to go to SmackDown when SmackDown goes to Fox in October. This is a way for them to get Brock Lesnar on SmackDown for Fox. Because apparently, Fox wants, Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey on SmackDown because that's what they asked for. So apparently, this is gonna happen. Then after that, we saw Sami Zayn. He was begging to Bobby Lashley to soften up Braun Strowman a little bit. Lashley ends up telling Sami that he's not having it. He says he's happy to have Sami soften Strowman up a little bit for him. And he ends up telling Sami that, that Sami has got this. So Sami is going to soften up Braun Strowman. Then we had Kofi Kingston, Seth Rollins backstage. They ran to Triple H. Triple H says he was going to tell them, but they ran out before he could get to them. Both Kofi and Seth ran out before Triple H, could have got to them. And so Triple H, and when he announced this, he looked like he was not too thrilled to announce this. So Triple H ends up telling Kofi and Seth that the both of them are going to be teaming up in the main event against Bobby Lashley. And of course, once again, he's in the fucking main event. Once again, Baron Corbin. How many fucking times has WWE put Baron Corbin in the main event already? It's like every fucking week. Baron Corbin is main event in Monday Night Raw every single week. And you wonder why they say, oh, why are the ratings down? There you go. It's fucking garbage. This is fucking garbage. And then we had first match, Braun Strowman versus Sami Zayn. And the match never got underway in the beginning because Sami Zayn ended up running away from Strowman. Sami ends up running through the crowd. Strowman ends up going down to chase him. We see both of them are backstage. Strowman ends up running into Bobby Lashley. They both have a stare down. And then Sami ends up attacking Braun Strowman out of nowhere. Strowman swats Sami Zayn away. Strowman ends up turning back to Bobby Lashley, saying, I'll deal with you later. So Strowman ends up picking up Sami Zayn, throws him into some equipment that was backstage. He ends up shoving Sami up some steps as Sami ends up running away. Then we cut back to the arena. They were back up. They were on the stage, both Sami Zayn and Braun Strowman. They were on stage. Braun was holding Sami Zayn on his shoulders. Then we go back to ringside. Sami ends up throwing Strowman into the ring post twice, and then Strowman ended up going into the ring post a third time, and he ends up throwing. Sami ends up throwing Strowman into the ring. Strowman ended up throwing Sami Zayn into the barricade, and he ends up tossing him into the ring. They both get in the ring. The bell rings, and then we had Strowman going at it with Sami Zayn. Strowman ended up charging to Sami. Sami moved out of the way. Strowman went into the ring post. But in the end, Braun Strowman ended up getting the win. Hit the running power slam on Sami Zayn to score the win. That was that. It was just a quick thing. It lasted maybe like 2 minutes. That was basically it. But Braun Strowman ended up winning. Then we had Charlie Caruso. She was interviewing Lars Sullivan. Sorry about that, but I was saying Charlie Caruso. She ended up interviewing Lars Sullivan. Charlie Caruso says Lars' path of destruction has been unparalleled in WWE. and they end up cutting to a video package of his destruction. Then after when the video package is over, Charlie Caruso asks Lars, what are his goals in WWE? And as soon as Lars was going to talk, the Lucha House Party interrupts. And they go down to the ring. They surround Lars Sullivan. Lucha House Party were trying to get back at Lars Sullivan for what he did last night at Money in the Bank, where he took out all three of them. So we had Kalisto hit Lars with a knee. Lince Dorado and Gran Metalik did a double missile drop kick to Lars Sullivan. Kalisto did one of his own missile drop kicks to Lars. And Lars Sullivan was sent out of the ring. And Lucha House Party ended up standing tall. They invited Lars Sullivan back into the ring. Kalisto hit a slingshot crossbody, and Lars ended up dropping Kalisto face first into the apron, into the ring apron. And we saw Lince Dorado and Gran Metalik. They were laying strikes at Lars, but Lars ended up shrugging them off. Lars ended up hitting a Lariat to Lince Dorado. He also hit another one to Gran Metalik. This was on the outside. Then they went back into the ring. Lince Dorado ends up taking the freak experiment from Lars Sullivan, and it followed up. Lucha House Party ended up saving Dorado from the power bomb that Lars Sullivan does. They end up making their escape. And so that's basically what happened. I mean, this was just filler. It was fucking filler. So now what are they going to do? They're going to do a 3-on-1 handicap match. The Lucha House Party versus Lars Sullivan. Looks like they're going to do that. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Then we had Cesaro versus Ricochet. This was a decent match. This was an enjoyable match. Cesaro ended up getting new theme music. They took away the sirens, so they gave him new music. They gave him a new look, and I like the new music that they chose for Cesaro. But like I said, this was a decent match. It was back and forth between the both of them. Cesaro ended up coming off decent here. He won the match. He ended up hitting the neutralizer on Ricochet. So Cesaro wins. And this is the third straight loss for Ricochet. I'm like, after this loss, I'm like, what are they doing with Ricochet? Making him lose 3 matches already. It's unbelievable, this booking. But all in all, it was a decent match. Then we had Charlie Caruso. She was interviewing AJ Styles about match last night against him and Rollins at Money in the Bank. Styles says he's back to square one, and he's got a lot of hard work ahead of him. He says that's okay. He likes working hard. He says the truth is he can beat Seth Rollins. And it just wasn't last night. And he lost fair and square in the middle of the ring. He says he has no shame. He goes on to say there's a reason Seth is Universal Champion. And then we see Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin rolls up. Ends up slow clapping to AJ Styles. He says he derides Styles' tired old story of next time I can do it. He says last night Styles failed. And Styles, admits that and says he just said that before pointing out that, Corbin squandered his money in the bank and also got fired as the GM of Raw. And so Corbin ends up pointing out that he pinned Seth Rollins 2 weeks ago. And that's proof that Styles didn't deserve the match. He ends up calling it a slap in the face. So Styles says that wasn't a slap in the face, but this is. And he ends up slapping Baron Corbin in the face, and then we hear Renee Young go, "Ow!" And I just laughed when Renee said that "Ow!" And then we see Corbin ends up telling Styles he'll pay for that one, and he leaves. So that was, a little interview with AJ Styles, and that's what happened with Styles and Corbin. But we're gonna get possibly Styles versus Corbin. Now, I bet you that will be the main event next week, since WWE loves putting Baron Corbin in the main event. Then we had Roman Reigns end up coming out. Then when Roman came out, Raw went to the commercial. Then when Raw came back from commercial, Roman was still in the ring. Looked like he was going to say something. But Shane McMahon ends up coming out. He ends up saying to Roman that the yard is this big compared to the best in the world. Shane goes on to say that he proved it last night when he beat The Miz in the steel cage. Shane says he is done with The Miz and that he's turned his focus onto Roman. So Shane says he can't get what Roman did to his father, Vince, out of his head. He says his father is a global treasure and that Roman cowardly struck him to the ground. And he was like, what kind of man hits another man's father? He ends up saying Roman discusses him. And Roman ends up saying to Shane that he hates spoiled rich kids. He ends up saying a whole bunch of crap, but the only thing he heard is that he's done with The Miz. Is that Shane is done with The Miz. He says, well, good, because he's done with Elias. So his schedule is wide open. Shane ends up saying Elias isn't done with Roman. And one fluke victory doesn't prove anything. So Shane says if Roman's got beef, he wants to squash it in this ring tonight. And Shane mockingly calls Roman brave for issuing a challenge after what he went through in the steel cage yesterday, but says he won't leave it up to them. And so he asks the crowd if he wants to see him take on Roman. The crowd is into it, but Shane ends up saying the match is not happening tonight because he controls his destiny like all rich kids and does what he wants when he wants. He goes on to say he's Roman's boss, so allow him to demonstrate his control. And so Drew McIntyre ends up coming out. And Shane says, on second thought, thinking of the challenge, it's still not going to happen tonight. So Shane says he will take on Roman at Super Showdown, the Saudi Arabia show. And he says the last thing he'll hear when he wakes up is the announcement that Shane won the match. So Roman ends up telling Shane that he'll say that Shane will say that he just got his ass kicked by Roman Reigns at the Super Showdown when that happens, like everybody else. And then he tells Shane, believe that. And that's how a segment ended. So there you go. We're getting Shane McMahon versus Roman Reigns in Saudi Arabia at Super Showdown. Then we had Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre backstage. Charlie Caruso ends up interviewing them. Shane ends up deflecting a question about his match against Roman Reigns. And The Miz comes up. McIntyre gets in Miz's face, and he ends up saying, if Miz has a problem with Shane, he's got a problem with him. And Miz asks if Shane has others fighting his battles now, before saying, once he's done with McIntyre, he's coming for Shane. Once Miz is done with McIntyre, he's coming for Shane again. So there you go. We're gonna get more of this, Miz and Shane feud. Then we had the Revival versus the Usos tag team match. And this was a decent match. This was a good match between the both of them. Back and forth between them. The Revival was really decent here. The wrestling here was entertaining. And the Revival ended up getting the win. Scott Dawson ended up rolling up Jimmy Uso for the win. So it was shocking to see the Revival end up winning, because WWE has been embarrassing them, with the whole, with the Usos were filming Dash Wilder shaving Scott Dawson's back. And then the following week, the Usi hot shit, where the Revival were just bouncing around. They were burning up, bouncing around. Scott Dawson rolling on the stage. It was shocking that the Revival won tonight. So it's a deserved win after the way WWE treated them for those past weeks. All because the Revival wouldn't sign a 5-year contract with WWE. So they turned that down. So WWE ended up embarrassing them, with the whole shaving the back thing, the Usi hot shit. So there you go. The Revival got a win on the Usos. And so after that, we saw Alexa Bliss. She was backstage. She was getting her makeup done. She was having a moment of bliss, a moment of piss later on. And so Nikki Cross ends up rolling up. And Alexa says that Nikki did a great job filling in her spot last night in the women's Money in the Bank match. But she ends up telling Nikki there's one little problem. She lost. And Nikki says she got her hands on the briefcase for a second, and Alexa ends up telling her that she saw that, but she didn't win. And she says, good news, tonight she has her own show. Now we see the Revival showing up. They were celebrating their victory. And they end up telling Alexa that they should be the next guests on Moment of Bliss. So that was pretty much what happened backstage. Sorry about that, but I was saying, that's what happened backstage with Alexa, Nikki Cross, and the Revival. Then we had Firefly Funhouse. It was the intro. It was a full intro, and then it became all distorted and creepy. And then we see the words that say "Let me in." We see Bray Wyatt with the clown mask, and then when it was almost done, you would hear Bray Wyatt's voice say, "Let me in," and then that was it. But it was cool. It was kind of cool. But let's see where where WWE still takes this, because they're doing a good job with Bray Wyatt with the promo from last week with the segment, the Firefly Funhouse segment, and now this week it's getting interesting. So let's see what they do. But this is WWE. They could, when they put Bray Wyatt back in the ring, and with this whole thing, they could fuck it up somehow. Because I'll bet you WWE might possibly fuck this up later on. And I hope they don't do that. I hope, they do Bray Wyatt good. Because, why not? Because I hope they don't fuck up Bray Wyatt once again. But yeah, it was a short little Firefly Funhouse thing with the intro and distortion and the word saying "Let me in" on it. It was short. Then we had Alexa Bliss come out for a moment of piss. Alexa says she didn't want to risk losing her luggage tonight, so she came prepared. She asks where her coffee is. Crew member comes out, brings out two cups out because Nikki Cross was out there with Alexa, and we see Alexa pours coffee into the other before passing around to Nikki Cross, and Alexa ends up introducing her guest, who was Becky Lynch. So Becky ends up coming out. She ends up sitting in Nikki Cross's seat. And what was really funny was Nikki ended up getting up, and she ended up standing close to Alexa Bliss awkwardly, which was funny. So Alexa, with a few false starts, Nikki is close, so she mentions, to step back. And Becky, before she could answer the question that Alexa asked her about losing the SmackDown Women's Championship, the Iconics, Peyton, Royce, and Billie Kay, they were making bird noises. They came out. They both asked if they can still call her Becky Two Belts. And she ends up saying now it's Becky One Belt. And they try to cheer Becky up by pointing out that they still have their two belts that they won at WrestleMania, which still the Iconics have not defended them. And Becky ends up telling them to shut their faces and points out that she defended her titles more often in one night than they had in 2 months. And she'll take them to the ring right now and become Becky Three Belts. And that brought out Lacey Evans. Lacey Evans ended up coming out. Lacey accuses Becky of being a typical man and not knowing where to give credit, pointing out that she's the reason Becky Lynch lost the SmackDown Women's Championship. Becky says she can say what she likes while wearing. Becky says, Lacey could say what she likes while wearing her grandma's clothes, but the fact is she tapped out to half of her attention. And now that she's lost the SmackDown title, she can slap her around full time on Raw. She goes, in fact, she'll take on all three of them right now. she'll take on the Iconics and Lacey Evans. And Nikki Cross ends up volunteering to stand with Becky, to be in the match with her. And Lacey ends up pointing out that that Becky and Nikki are one short still. And Becky says, Alexa will do that. So Alexa complains, but Becky ends up saying that all she has to do is stand there and look pretty, and that she'll take care of all the work. And so they end up making their way down to the ring. Alexa comes down there with her coffee in hand, standing there. So she didn't compete in the match, of course, because afraid to take bumps, and she has an injury, a concussion. So WWE is holding Alexa back. So then we had a 6-woman tag team match. Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss, and Nikki Cross versus Peyton, Royce, Billie Kay, and Lacey Evans. And Lacey Evans did nothing here. Lacey Evans did nothing in this match. But Becky Lynch, Alexa, and Nikki Cross end up getting the win. Becky ended up hitting a knee drop on Billie Kay to score the win. And the match itself, it was entertaining. Wasn't bad. And after the match, Becky ended up celebrating with the title, with the Royal Women's Championship. And Alexa ended up holding up Nikki Cross's arm like, she won the match. But all in all, it was entertaining. It wasn't bad. And then we had Mick Foley come out. And oh my God. This whole thing was fucking shitty. This is garbage. Mick Foley ends up coming out. He introduced a new title and says he has business to attend, starting with this title on his shoulder. He says, now in his humble opinion, there's been something missing from Monday Night Raw, and that he thinks it's time that we revisit those 3 letters, R-A-W. And he wants to make Monday Nights Raw again. He says, for those looking to step up, he can speak from experience that it takes a lot to make a mark and be a champion. He goes on to say it's not just something you defend, you breed, dream, convey, love, gladly, sacrifice, fresh new teeth and ear, because that's how a legend is born. And he says, with that spirit in mind, he presents the newest title in the WWE family. He asks for a drum roll. Drum roll happens. He reveals the new title. And the title is called the WWE 24/7 Championship, which the belt is the most ugliest, shittiest title I have ever seen in all the years of watching wrestling, in all the years of watching WWE. This belt makes the Universal Championship look like a masterpiece. This championship is a green championship. It's green. It has a 24/7 championship right in the center. And right out of the get-go, they made this title look like a fucking joke. And Mick Foley says, as the names imply, the title is to be defended anytime, any place, anywhere. And this is what they did back in the day with the Hardcore Championship. But the Hardcore Championship meant something. This is just, oh yeah, we're having everybody come out, and this was like a circus. This was like a fucking circus, which I'll get to. Mick Foley says, no days off with this title. As long as a referee is present, you can lose the title. He says, wear your trunks in the shower because falls count anywhere. means falls count anywhere. And he says what he's going to do is lay the title on the line, make us aware that starting tonight, the third hour of Raw is going to get mean and nasty. Nope, it's going to be the same old shit with shit garbage matches. He says, starting tonight, right now, we're crowning our first 24/7 champion. And it's open to every superstar in WWE, whether it's from Raw, SmackDown, 205 Live, NXT, and NXT UK. And he says, who knows, maybe every now and then a legend will compete for it. And I'm like, I don't want to see anybody from 205 Live, NXT, or NXT UK hold this championship. I don't want anyone from those brands to go near this title. So Mick Foley leaves the title in the ring, and he ends up ordering the belt to ring. And so we had superstars come down. We saw EC3, No Way Jose, Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, Titus O'Neil, a bunch of jobbers. This is really a jobber title. They should call this the WWE Jobber Championship, because that's what it basically is. As soon as the superstars came out, I just heard the Looney Tunes music go, da 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 da. That's what I heard when that's what I heard when the superstars made their way out and they started beating the hell out of out of everybody. Even Drake Maverick, the 205 Live general manager, was involved in this. So basically, what they all had to do was just get the title from the ring. Pick up the title that was in the ring. And that was it. Yeah, Titus O'Neil, he ends up picking up Drake Maverick, throwing him out of the ring. Titus ended up picking up the belt. And so right there, Titus won the 24/7 championship. And then, from out of nowhere, Robert Roode ends up rolling up Titus O'Neil. And now Robert Roode's the 24/7 champion. And so, he's running. Robert Roode is running backstage. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a mess. This is a fucking jumbled clusterfuck mess. I'm like, watch this. I'm like, did we just dream this? Oh my God. Right from this point, they should, I'm saying right now, they should retire the 24/7 championship. Because this title was a fucking joke. Do we need this? No. So then we see Robert Roode. He was backstage running, hiding from everybody that was trying to, get the 24/7 championship from him, possibly pin him. So, we had that. Then we had Drew McIntyre versus The Miz, which wasn't a bad match, in my opinion. But oh yeah, I forgot to mention when Mick Foley showed the 24/7 championship, nobody in that crowd gave a shit. They booed the hell out of that title, and when I heard the crowd boo that, I was laughing, and then I was like, good, very good. Boo that shitty looking belt. Yeah, then we went to Drew McIntyre versus The Miz. And you had Shane McMahon out there at ringside. He was getting involved in points of the match. In the end, he distracted The Miz, which led to Drew McIntyre end up hitting the Claymore kick to The Miz. So Drew McIntyre ended up winning the match. After the match, Shane ended up getting on the mic. He says he has one last parting gift for The Miz. And he asks McIntyre to set Miz up in the corner. And it looked like Shane was going for the coast to coast on the Miz, but Roman Reigns ended up coming out. He ended up making the save. Roman ended up getting the ring. He Superman punched Drew McIntyre. Shane ended up sliding out of the ring, runs away because looked like Roman was going to Superman punch Shane, but Shane ended up running away, wanted nothing to do with Roman. Then we see Roman ends up shaking the Miz's hand. Now that was what happened after the match. Then we saw Baron Corbin and Bobby Lashley. They were hanging out backstage. Robert Roode comes to them. He ends up telling both Corbin and Lashley, that they didn't see him. So he runs off as the rest of the guys, are chasing Robert Roode for the 24/7 championship. And you see Drake Maverick, lagging behind. Then we had Charlie Caruso. She was interviewing Seth Rollins and Kofi Kingston. Kofi says they know that Lesnar and Heyman are there, and Lashley and Corbin are legit. So Seth adds that no one likes them, but they're still dangerous. And he says they're taking care of Lashley and Corbin first. Kofi ends up saying they don't know who Brock would rather cash in on, but he's worked so hard to become champion that he's ready to not just visit Suplex City, but survive it. So it was okay interview with Seth Rollins and Kofi. Then we had a hand cam promo from Samoa Joe. He was talking about how everyone saw his shoulders, were never on the mat, last night, which they weren't. So, and I heard both of the botches from the refs last night in the Samoa Joe versus Rey Mysterio match and the steel cage match. WWE did that on purpose. This was in the storyline. I read this in an article today that this happened by WWE. This wasn't a botch. This was, WWE scripting that, what happened with the referees in both of those matches. But Joe was saying that he should still be champion. He should still be the United States champion. So Joe ends up putting Mysterio over as both a human and a wrestler, and says he knows he never tarnished his reputation by accepting a dirty win. And he says he's going to give him the opportunity to do the right thing and give the United States Championship back to be the man he knows he hopes Dominic grows up to be. So yeah, that was a little promo from Joe. Then we see Robert Roode. He was still running away. He was running through the parking lot. R-Truth was there. He was asking R-Truth for help. R-Truth ends up telling Robert to get into his rental car, in the trunk. So Robert Roode gets in R-Truth's trunk. R-Truth shuts the lid. And the guys end up coming out there looking for Robert Roode. And Truth ends up telling, Robert went in that direction. And then all the guys run off. So Truth ends up letting Robert Roode out of the trunk. Pats him on the back. Truth asks Robert if he needs a ride. So Robert ends up opening up the door, and a referee was in the seat. And then we see R-Truth ends up slamming Robert Roode into the car, and Truth ends up winning the 24/7 championship. He ended up defeating Robert Roode right there. So R-Truth is the new 24/7 champion. And I'm like, this whole thing is a circus right here. You know, anytime the 24/7 championship is being defended, all you just gotta do is play the Looney Tunes music. You know, that that's what I'm gonna hear when the 24/7 championship is being defended. Because it's a fucking circus with this title. I mean, the Hardcore Championship, when they did that for the Hardcore Championship back in the day, it meant something. And they did it the right way back in the day. So, but nowadays, this is like meh. Sorry about that again, but I keep getting interrupted. But like I said, this whole 24/7 championship is just meh. Then we had Seth Rollins and Kofi Kingston versus Baron Corbin and Bobby Lashley. Tag team match. Once again, Baron Corbin in the main event. I'm like, didn't care for this match. Didn't care for it. Seth Rollins and Kofi Kingston end up winning the match. After the match, Bobby Lashley ended up spearing both Kofi and Seth. Lashley ends up taking a chair. Kofi ends up ducking when Lashley was going to hit him with the chair. Rollins ends up hitting the Vandaminator. And Brock Lesnar comes out. He and Paul Heyman end up circling the ring. He passes the Money in the Bank briefcase to Paul Heyman. Lesnar gets on the apron. And he was saying, oh, who's he going to cash in on? And I knew, this wasn't going to happen. So Lesnar ends up popping right back down, gets down off the ring apron. He says, he ain't cashing in tonight. So Heyman ends up saying, we hear Heyman say to Lesnar, come back next week. And, he's going to tell the world who he's cashing in on. And we see them leaving together. And that's how Raw ended tonight. So that was Monday Night Raw tonight, people. This whole 24/7 championship thing. I have no words. I said what I had to say about that title. It's an ugly fucking looking title. It's a shitty looking title. And it's a fucking circus with the guys. That's all I gotta say. WWE, they should just fucking retire the whole belt. So anyways, that's it for my review of tonight's Monday Night Raw. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Like I said, if you guys haven't checked out my previous video that I uploaded earlier, the Pokemon Detective Pikachu movie review, definitely go check that out. So anyways, give this video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Follow me on the Stardust app at MikeyBoy101591. And until next video, which will possibly be the SmackDown review. Hopefully SmackDown is a better show tomorrow. Of course, we're getting Roman Reigns versus Elias, a rematch for Money in the Bank. I'm like, yay! Do we really got to see that again? Do we really got to see Elias get fed to Roman once again? So anyways, that's it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all back with the SmackDown review. Bye.